Hey everyone, History Mystery Man here on a beautiful afternoon, not from small town America for a change, but from the big city, Indianapolis, Indiana, here to interview a racing icon, a family that's more famous and means more to me than anything probably in racing. I grew up with a USAC sprint car series, so the name Bettenhausen rings a giant bell with me. The most iconic name, as far as I'm concerned, certainly from the era that I grew up in. Not to say that I didn't love the other heroes, the Foyts, the Unsers, the Rutherfords, Mario Andretti. Mario Andretti's still my hero. If he was running for president, I'd be voting for Mario Andretti, and I think that's Merle right there, Merle Bettenhausen. Yeah, that's who we're going to chat with today, and I'm so excited. You bet. But I'm just so thrilled to be here. I can't tell you what this one's going to mean. I think you're in for a real treat. This may be my best interview ever. I just can feel it coming. Welcome to the home of Merle Bettenhausen. Yeah. How do we do that? The elbow bump? Yeah, okay. Happy.
My friends.
Always wanted to be your friend, Merle. In fact, we've been friends for a long time. You just don't know it, but you're going to hear all about it.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. How cool. In the home of Merle Bettenhausen. I like it already. Should I take off my shoes?
I'm not going to, but if you want to.
Oh, if you want me to, I will. It's up to you.
Well, you didn't.
I haven't
you didn't
been.
run over here in mud, did you?
No,
You were in the car?
I was not at the dirt track today. This is the sunroom.
Yes.
How long have you lived here?
97.
97?
23 years?
Wow, you've been here a long time.
Yeah, that was actually the second one in this complex.
Gosh, but if you go back all the way to 97 here, that means your brother Gary Bettenhausen was here?
Oh, yeah.
And
Gary and Tony.
And Tony.
Yes.
Wow, that this place holds some history, and it's become even more important. Very interesting. Well, what I want to do, Merle, in this conversation, I sort of want to get to know your dad. I grew up with the USAC sprint car series. My stepdad owned the rodeo bar car that Raleigh Beal drove. I went to every USAC sprint car race from 1969 through 1973. I think I missed 3 in that whole 5-year time span. So I was raised with Gary Bettenhausen, and you dropped in every now and then. I want to get to know your dad through this, and because I've always felt that special connection to your last name, and I want to start with how he raised you guys. According to the book I just read, and the accounts I read, he was super heavy on discipline. Yes?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
It was, he said, do it right or don't do it at all. And he said, and I do about 99% everything right. So whatever I say is what goes.
I'm with you. Well, I mean, as tough as it seems at the time to learn those lessons when you're a little kid, do you understand better now that he had your best interest in mind, that he wanted to raise responsible kids?
Oh, absolutely. And it all boils down from he never knew his dad, because his dad died when he was 18 months old. He was born on a farm and was kicked in the stomach when he was out picking corn, and so...
By a horse?
By a horse, well, 1916.
Wow.
There weren't a lot of John Deere, combines with cabs on them. This was called manual labor. You got the horse pulling a wagon, you got a guy walking behind it, shucking the ears off of the stalks, and for some crazy reason it just reared up, kicked him in the stomach, and he died of ruptured appendix. So my dad grew up on the farm, and he was crazy. I mean, he got away with a lot of stuff because he was the baby of the family.
Yeah, like 8 kids or something?
Yeah, no dad.
You guys are German immigrants. Yes. The name Bettenhausen came over from Bremen, Germany.
Yes.
And do you know what American town is named after Bremen, Germany?
No.
I gave you half the clue there. New Bremen, Ohio.
Oh, really?
New Bremen Speedway.
If you really want to know I can kind of tell you this story from when my dad was growing up with just his mom and all those things, but I don't know if you want to stay on racing for a while or if you,
Well, we're going to get to all of it. I mean, this is not going to be a one run and done interview. We're going to have to break it up in pieces. It's going to be so good that I really want to cover it all.
so you can't edit that.
Oh yeah, I can. Yeah.
So you have a machine that.
Yeah, I download everything over to a laptop,
okay,
then
cool.
I can edit anything. So if I ask a really stupid question, I can delete it
Or if
till
I
the
say
end of
something
time.
really stupid, you can do that.
I'm here to make you look good, mister. And that's what I intend to do. But so this 240 acre farm that your grandfather and then father worked, is there anything left of it at all in Tindley Park, the old farmhouse?
You haven't been following us much.
I'm trying to catch up. That's why I'm here.
It was 240 acres, okay? Each kid got 20 acres. So when it was all said and done, when the kids moved off the farm and they're out on their own, there was a 60-acre farm left. And that's where my grandma lived. And then she got old in the late mid-40s, so she moved to Tinley Park, and my uncle, Herb, took the farm over. And he farmed it. He had dairy cattle. And in 1947, come here, I'll show you.
I'm with you.
In 1947, there was a bad storm, and lightning.
Oh, is that a picture of it?
That's the farm.
Oh,
That was taken in 1921.
really?
Biggest farm in Cook County.
Is that an
ever
actual
built.
photo, though?
It's a black and white photo that's been colored.
That's fascinating. That is a picture of the old Bettenhausen farm?
Right,
That is so cool.
yes. And the back of the photo, it says 1921, and this was just a field across the street. But anyway, that burned down, and when the barn burned down, then my uncle he couldn't do his dairy cattle.
So that's the barn there.
Yeah.
And that's the house. Did you did not live in
We'll
that?
get to that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And you have no idea if you could see how big this house is. And
Is it bigger than we realize? Is that what you're saying?
It's like it's about twice as big as you think it is. But this barn was so enormous.
Oh my God.
The barn burns down, so then my uncle said, "I got to leave the farm," so that it sat vacant because my grandma moved to town, and my uncle didn't want to farm it. So one night we lived in Tinley Park in a small little town or a small little house in the middle of town, and my dad my mom was a city girl. Her mom was a hairdresser. And my dad says to my mom, "You want to buy the farm?" And my mom wanted to, but she was afraid to ask her. What? Anyway.
She got the question she always wanted.
Yeah. So they bought the farm. Now, the farm was built in 1893. Just had a cellar, didn't have a basement underneath it. So the floors in the house did this, like they all did back then.
Yeah.
So my dad wants to, at that time, let's say in 1950, I was 7, Gary was 9, my sister was 5, and Tony wasn't even born yet.
Mm-hmm.
So he does a project, and he goes underneath. He digs the hole underneath of the house out, puts it up on 13 jack stands.
You're talking your dad?
Yeah, my dad. And they put a full foundation around the whole house.
Wow.
Remodeled the inside, I mean.
And that is the house there, right?
That is the house, yes.
And that house is no longer standing.
No. It's okay.
I wish it was.
So
That'd be so. What's left of the property though? Is it? It's
well,
like
yeah,
okay.
it's-
I'm too excited, Merle.
Hey, it gets better.
I know it. I knew it would.
No, the house is gone, but the story gets better even with the house gone.
How could it?
It's a National Historic Markers place right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
No.
That is so cool. Now I want to drive to Tinley Park.
You better. Do you know what sits there? Right there?
No, I don't.
There's a $15 million recreation center
Really?
by the
What's the name of it?
the Tony Bettenhausen
That is-
Recreation Center.
I can't tell you how cool
They
that
put
is.
a National Historic Society.
And there's a marker there for
Yeah.
it. That is so cool.
You know, you've heard of Irma that here in Indiana?
Irma, yeah.
Well, ours is the first one to be out of the state of Indiana. They did it in April 2019.
I gotta go. And I don't know when I'm gonna get there, but I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
And there's a little museum there. Got a couple of Gary's helmets and my helmets and some old pictures. And
Speaking of which, I also read that there is a museum, and maybe this is the one you're talking about, a museum somewhere in Tinley Park that has some of the old school seats that you guys were educated in. Was that the one?
That's the Tinley Park Historical Society. It's got all facets of the city's history over it.
Including the seats you guys were educated in?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
We went to the same school my dad went.
Well, hold on. You went to the same school, your
Same
father,
grade school.
Tony. Was it a one-room schoolhouse?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. Is the one-room
Picture in
school?
the book, did you see the?
I must have missed it. I'll get to
I
it.
think it's the first page.
Is the building still standing?
No,
It's gone.
destroyed.
Okay. Okay. Wow.
It's all
But
built
how,
up.
you know what? There are very few humans left in America who can say they went to a one-room schoolhouse, because that does reach back to your father's area and way before your dad. And that includes you, but there's not a lot of people that are walking around saying, I went to a one-room schoolhouse.
Well, remember I said that we grew up in town, right? So my dad buys the farm. It takes him about 2 years to get it remodeled, and we're going to school first and second, third grade in town in a big school with separate schoolrooms and the whole thing. But then we moved out to the farm, and now we're going to a one-room schoolhouse. So we go
That
from
is so cool.
the big city to a one-room schoolhouse. 8 grades in one room. I think
Wait, whoa.
total of about 30 kids.
8 grades in one room? I mean, Abraham Lincoln went to a one-room schoolhouse.
And that's what we're, the same thing. You see, probably Lincoln used these chairs for these.
You know what I would love to do sometime, another pipe dream of mine, I'd love to get in a car with you and drive around Tinley Park and you show
There's
me.
not much I know anymore.
It's probably all gone too, isn't it?
Yeah, so I moved away.
Is there anything left, like an old service station there? Anything that would say that's where my dad used to go or work, or that old restaurant he used to...
There's a building that used to, drink coffee and, all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of,
Is it still there?
I think so.
Yeah.
But, anyway, so, and I'm the only one who has this picture.
That is, I love it. I absolutely love it. I guess I'll have a bottled water. Oh, look at that. The 3 brothers on your refrigerator still. That's so cool. I love it. I thought it was neat when I read in your latest book that, your dad, the strict disciplinary guy he was, by the way, his real name was Melvin Eugene Bettenhausen, and I think that it evolved to Tony because they used to box on the old farm or something. And
Gene Tunney was his hero.
Gene Tunney was a boxer.
And he used to worship him. And that's probably because, well, let's go back to my grandfather getting kicked by a horse. Right? So my dad loses his dad. He's 18 months old, so he goes up on the farm. He's got 2 older brothers and 4 sisters. One of the sisters died, Anna. And so when his dad dies, his mom is like 40-some years old, farming 240 acres. This is in 1916, but she's got 4 daughters and 3 sons to do the farming. Well, my dad goes up on, and every time he walked out in the barn and looked at a horse, his mind said, "You took my dad from me." So he never, ever really got into farming or horses. He used to say horses went out with high-button shoes.
That's interesting.
So, but he's growing up in the farm, and and there's got to be, in his mind, he's not very happy. There's got to be something better. So he was a wild kid, okay? So he starts reading about cars and different things and engines, and he went through, I think, 7th grade. But meantime, he'd read about cars, and supposedly when he was like 12 or 13, he took the engine apart in his mom's car and put it back together, and it supposedly ran better after he got done with it. But he just wanted.
Here's a guy that didn't get past the 7th grade because he had to come home and work the farm.
Well,
Yet he was brilliant in his own right.
Yeah, well, I don't know if.
Well, I don't know about maybe brilliant's too strong, but he was a smart guy,
Well, put it
and
this
he
way.
could build and rebuild. And
He was a man of destiny, and the destiny wasn't
The
in
farm.
a farmyard.
I gotcha.
So whatever it was, and all at once he went to Riverview Park in the south side of Chicago and saw his first midget race. And he's a teenager then. I don't think he even had a driver's license. And boy, his mind says, this is a whole lot better than, walking behind a horse and getting kicked in the stomach. So his whole world changed.
Oh, that's
And so he started racing, and he got involved with a character named Gene Tuffanelli in the south side of Chicago, and
Gene Tuffanelli.
yeah.
That sounds like a South
Well,
Chicago name.
And they weren't the nicest people. So word is, it was every other night he was in a fight with somebody somewhere, and so he loved auto racing. He loved mischievous, if that's the right word. I don't know if I said that.
It doesn't matter. I get it. I understand where you're going.
And cars, and so to make a long story short, the last thing in the world he wanted to do was sit out behind a horse somewhere, or be on the farm, and so that got him involved, and he bought his first race car. I think he was like 18
1937-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he just had turned 20 or 21, somewhere around there, and hired somebody, and I don't even know who it was, drove it, and didn't like the way he drove it, so he fired him, and that's bought his first helmet, and he started racing then. What happened? So all at once, he lived this life, see, and had no dad. He had sisters, and the authority of a sister or a brother compared to the authority of a dad, there's not much comparison,
Yeah.
right?
None at all.
And so when he had kids, you go back, his kids weren't going to do what he did.
This is really starting to make sense. The way he was raised and the way he learned he was going to raise
technically
you.
he wasn't really raised.
He raised himself.
Right.
Yeah.
He just.
That almost builds a stronger man along the way, though.
Yeah, well, and there's a lot of blanks in what we know about our dad growing up. And we know about going to the races. We know about his involvement with these people in Blue Island, but there's some gaps in there. So there's probably a pretty good chance he probably did something that probably wasn't right. What are we talking? We're talking in the 30s. What was going on in the 30s, right?
Great Depression.
Yeah, Depression, Prohibition.
Yeah.
20s.
It's a very heady time.
Yeah. So, and never ever have we've talked to. Well, they're all dead now. I think all of this lifestyle he had made him realize that I don't want my kids doing what I did, and so the word came. And he never had a father to mentor himself after. It was just his common sense. We're going to do it this way, and not the way I did it.
He was self-taught.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so interesting. So I know he had a rough exterior, the heavy disciplinary. You did not want to cross this man.
Right.
I know that. I can tell it. I can feel it. But did he have a soft side too?
He didn't have much.
Yeah.
What we always heard is he would.
Could you tell he loved you and cared?
Well, yes, I'm sure we thought he did, and the German, and just hard work and his discipline.
His work ethic must have been off the charts.
Well, it was for us.
Well, this is a heritage from Germany.
Yeah.
You're talking hard working
Yeah,
people.
but don't you know, he was the baby of the family. I mean, you know, where were you in the family?
Baby.
You don't know what it's like to be, and I see.
And I was spoiled because I was the only boy too. I had
Well,
two older
My
sisters.
kid, now, Tony was 9 years old when my dad died, so he had. See, that's why he was so. His personality was so different than Gary and I and my sister, because he doesn't even didn't even remember Dad, because he
Yeah.
was just 9 years old, and then he was raised by his mother and a stepfather. And he wasn't yelling at us. He wasn't talking to us. It was kind of like that.
Got it.
And like I say, Gary got the brunt of it. And Gary turned out just like him. That's the way he was with his kids.
Those we're going to get to that, but Gary, your brother Gary and Tony, seem to me, I don't know, but you correct me when I go wrong. They were the spitting image of each other. They looked exactly alike,
Yeah.
and I'll bet they acted alike.
Very, very similar.
So Gary was clearly Tony's son.
Yes.
Your identity was more, I'm Gary's younger brother and had to watch over his shoulder if you had a hope to learn anything.
Yeah, I mean, I had to jump up in the air to see over my dad's shoulder
Yep.
or Gary's shoulder to see what he was being taught. And,
Did you resent any of that? Like Gary was kind of the chosen one, and you were next in
No.
line, and
Do you know what? In my whole life, I always looked at life my life as a marathon, and Gary always looked at and this is my opinion. Gary looked at life as a trophy dash.
there's no tomorrow.
Right.
Gonna let her all hang out now.
Yep, absolutely. And
Syracuse, 1974,
yeah,
the crash.
but just everything it was, and I just had a belief in me that it's going to be a long way to the finish line, and there's going to be some stumbling blocks and some different bad things happen. It was, if you remember Bobby Unser and Al Unser, right?
Of course.
Bobby was, and Al was just running fourth, and then he's running third, and Al wins the race. And I kind of looked at myself as I developed my skills and Indy cars and everything else, that I was going to be. Gary was the Bobby Unser, and I was the Al Unser. Well, 3 laps, you don't get to develop that, and I've just thought that God had a different plan for me. That's all, and he didn't want me in heaven yet, but he wanted me to do something, that was worthwhile, and it wasn't going to involve being a great IndyCar driver. But as far as learning, I volunteered at VA hospital for 10 years. I don't know, but I love people, and
Gary wasn't the people person.
well, he didn't have time. He had too many projects going on in his mind. Everything was to make something work a little better, or go a little faster, or do a little more, and it was that's part from my dad. My dad was that way, but yeah, they were very similar, and so my plan was straight ahead, not at flat out, 3/4 throttle, and everything's going to turn out right. And so, but then this happens. But then I'm so lucky, because I have a feeling that not many men experience, and that feeling is